Penguin Random House Audio presents The Trap by Ava Glass. Read for you by Sophie Colquhoun.
7th of October. Special to the Prime Minister. Information. Public Communications G7. Security level, low. Risk level, low. Below, please find the daily roundup of press in advance of the G7 summit in Edinburgh. BBC Today programme transcript, 7th of October, 07:10 hours. Julian Cassell. Now work is well underway in Edinburgh as the city, police and security forces prepare for the G7 summit. Sarah Lambs is our Scottish editor, and she's keeping an eye on it for us up there. Sarah? Sarah Lambs. You're right, Julian. Things are really kicking off now, as the clock is ticking towards the moment when those planes touch down at Edinburgh Airport. In 1 week, the leaders of the 7 most powerful democracies will gather here in the Scottish capital to discuss the most pressing issues facing the world. This meeting of the Group of 7, as it is officially known, is particularly anticipated as tensions have been rising between the West and the twin titans of the East, Russia and China. Russia is known to be fuming about statements made by the British Prime Minister and the President of the United States criticizing the Russian conflict in Eastern Europe and its continual suppression of the production of oil that is sending prices soaring around the world. There's an expectation that the G7 leaders might decide to take a united front on sanctions. If they do, that could cripple the Russian economy, sending it into a downward spiral. Certainly the signals are there that strong action may be taken. This week, both the British and the American governments issued statements, accusing the Russian government of, and I quote, holding the world to blackmail. Russia responded with a strongly worded statement, calling both the US President and the British Prime Minister liars and cowards. The Chinese government issued a separate statement in more measured but still pointed terms, which said, "We support the Russian government's right to use any means to defend and support itself." That may not sound like much, but it sends a clear signal that the relationship between China and Russia is tightening. It's in this febrile atmosphere that the gathering will begin next Monday, ostensibly to discuss ways to improve the global economy and stabilize democracy, but also surely to talk about how they can rein in our neighbours to the east. The Scotsman, 7th of October, page 1. Everything you need to know about the G7. As the world turns its eyes to Edinburgh next week, locals are preparing for traffic snarls, crowds, and press attention that will make the city feel busier than it does during the annual Arts Festival. Here's what you should know as we brace ourselves for a very busy week. What is the G7? The Group of 7 is an informal grouping of Western democratic nations. Its members are the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Representatives of the EU also normally attend. Technically, it has no leader and no legal standing, but this alliance of nations is incredibly powerful. Where will they meet? The main meetings for this year's gathering will take place Monday and Tuesday at Colquhoun Castle, a privately owned Gothic manor house near Edinburgh Airport. These meetings will be closed to the media, and it's unlikely we'll get even a glimpse, as the castle is tucked away amid dozens of acres of grounds, shielded from prying eyes by high walls. However, early meetings and bilaterals, meetings of just 2 or 3 nations, will take place at the Balmoral Hotel in town, and some leaders are arriving early for this reason. Colquhoun can't hold all the support staff, so some will be staying at the castle, others will have rooms elsewhere in town, and will travel by convoy to the castle every morning. Along with the press and other staff, this means every hotel in the city is booked solid. How will this affect me? In short, traffic will be a nightmare. Starting tomorrow, road closures will be in place, some announced, some not announced, so prepare for the unexpected. When the US President arrives, stretches of the motorway into Edinburgh will shut down for hours for security reasons. The worst traffic will happen on Sunday, when the King and Queen are hosting a party for the leaders at Holyrood House. This will result in the closing of the Royal Mile and other major arteries within the city. Basically, if you can work from home, this is the week to do it. Expect chaos. Chapter 1. Monday. Just after midday on the first Monday in October, a long black Mercedes made its way across London. It was one of those rare, crisp autumn afternoons when the blue of the sky was almost blinding, and the sun cast the city in melting golden light. But the man in the back seat barely glanced up from his phone. The phone was Russian-made, secure, unhackable. At the wheel of a nondescript Ford, a short distance behind him, Emma Makepeace spoke into the microphone embedded in the lapel of her jacket. Unit 12. Target travelling east on Cromwell Road. I have eyes on. Copy that, 12. Adam's gravelly voice sounded clear through her earpiece. Adam Park was Emma's colleague, except his name wasn't really Adam and hers wasn't Emma. And both of them were intelligence officers who worked for an agency so secret it had no name at all. Emma watched the man's bowed head as the bulletproof saloon slid to a stop at a red light. She longed to know what he could be reading that was so fascinating. The agency had spent all morning trying unsuccessfully to find out what he was doing in England. Vladimir Balakin's private jet had landed 2 hours ago at an airport in Farnborough, 40 miles southwest of London. He'd been tailed ever since, first by Special Branch, then by a team from MI5. 10 minutes ago, Emma and Adam had picked up the chase. In all, 12 separate cars were pursuing him on parallel streets. This meant the cars directly behind the Mercedes kept changing, leaving nothing for its driver, a Russian intelligence officer with years of experience, to notice. As the car idled at the light, Emma saw Balakin glance up at last and speak impatiently, gesturing at the cars around them. "Don't like waiting, do you?" she whispered. Back in Moscow, he would have had a police escort rushing him through every red light because, while his true job title was a closely guarded secret, he was believed to be the second in command of the Russian intelligence agency, the FSB, one of the most feared intelligence organizations in the world. As far as the British government was concerned, he had no business being in the UK. It wasn't normal for someone that senior to travel to a country Russia counted as an enemy. It wasn't how things worked. As soon as his plane had registered a flight path to England, a pursuit team had been assembled. There might have been no legal or diplomatic means of stopping him entering the country, but Balakin would not have a single unwatched moment on London streets. The light turned green, and the long Mercedes purred forward. Emma shifted into first gear and dropped back just far enough, and Balakin turned his attention back to his phone. Among the many things no one knew was precisely where he was headed. Russian officials usually preferred the Savoy or the Dorchester for their stays in town, but he hadn't chosen the obvious route to either of those hotels. Instead, he was driving down the Cromwell Road, which led, as far as Emma was concerned, nowhere interesting. So when the Mercedes signalled and moved into the turning lane, she tightened her grip on the wheel. Target turning left on Gloucester Road. Copy that, do not follow. Adam growled through her earpiece. She could hear the roar of his engine as he floored it. Copy. Emma bypassed the Mercedes without a sideways glance.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?